We have new releases out for Revit 2025 of Naviate Structure and Naviate Rebar. We have new features in Naviate Structure for multi-rebar presentation and rebar tick by UK standard. We've also done some updates, notably new rebar numbering improvements and rebar placement improvements. We have updated the licensing for 2025, and this is also included in Naviate Rebar. We have added new functionality inside Naviate Structure. It's called multi-rebar presentation. And you can use multi-rebar presentation to set the presentation of all of your rebars in the view at the same time. So previously we had something called rebar presentation. This was so you could be able to select one-on-one rebar and select which one should be presented where. But now we've added the possibility to do this on multiple rebars at the same time. And we'll try to move the rebar that is underneath another rebar so everything is presented in a good way. So I'm going to run multi-rebar presentation now. And it's going to separate the rebar that's in front and in back. And if you want to change afterwards, of course you can use rebar presentation again. But this will save you a lot of time just doing the initial rebar presentation setup. You can also go in under configure reinforcement and rebar detailing settings to change the minimum rebar distance we move a rebar when they are colliding. So for example, if I change this to 200 and run the tool again, it will try to have a bigger value between the rebars here, but some it cannot, and it will stay with the small value here. So that is a multi-rebar presentation.
In this tutorial, we will look at how Naviate Structure can help you place ticks on rebar ends. In section or elevation views, it's common practice to mark the ends of rebars with a short 30-degree oblique. We will see how to select the appropriate family, how to place the ticks, and update them when your design changes. On the Structure tab in the Rebar Detailing panel, we'll go ahead and select the Rebar Tick drop-down menu, and we'll begin by looking at the settings. In the Rebar Tick settings dialog, we can choose our family that we'd like to use. In this case here, we're just going to use a tick. Next, we can place ticks on the entire view if required. To do this, we simply just click Rebar Tick, and Naviate Structure will then place rebar ticks on all the rebars in the active view. So looking at this a little bit closer, if we zoom in here and inspect this U-bar, we can see clearly that the ticks are placed at the end of those U-bars. If I zoom into the end over here, we can see that we've got a straight bar over here at the bottom, and again we can see a tick at each end has been placed automatically. If we want to delete the ticks, we can go back to the Rebar Tick drop-down menu and select Delete, and those ticks will then be removed. If we want to just place ticks on selected elements, in this example I'm going to make a selection set of everything here. I can go back to the Naviate Structure tab, and again in the Rebar Detailing panel we can select Rebar Tick. Here you'll notice that it's put the ticks on with the rebar that was selected, but of course not put the ticks on the other end. In this example now, I might want to be able to flip these rebar ticks if they've been placed in the wrong direction. So I can select one or more rebars. And again, we can go to the Rebar Tick drop-down menu and choose Flip. And here you can see the ticks will then flip direction. Finally, if the design changes, we can update our ticks. So I'm going to select this U-bar here, and then I'm just going to elongate this, so we'll make this 800 for the A and C leg. And now, of course, we need to update our ticks, so we can just select Update here, and we can see here that Naviate Structure will then reposition those ticks to the end of the bar.
We have done improvements to our rebar placement functionality. So previously rebar placement only worked on straight bars, but now we added the possibility to have rebar placement on all 2D rebar shapes, and that will be in relationship to the host element. So when I run rebar placement. I cannot update inactive new now. It will update also my L, U bars and so on. That is a 2D shape. So if I go to my L bar and down on NV rebar placement, you can see it has a rebar placement now. And as before, if you want to change this value for rebar placement, you can go to Configure Reinforcement and Rebar Detailing Settings. And here you have all of the values for top, bottom, far and near side. We've made some improvement to new rebar numbering. So if I go into new rebar numbering and run an analyze on all partitions, you can see we've added a progress bar with the possibility to cancel out. We also updated how update BVBS code works. So if I select some rebars here and go to Naviate structure and update BVBS code, you now have the possibility to just update the BVBS code on selected rebars, but you can also select to update all the rebars in the project or just rebars in the active view. So I'm going to do it for selected rebars now. We also added a progress bar there with the ability to cancel out if you want. So in our Naviate for Revit applications, we have done changes to how we handle login and release and refresh of licenses. So previously, if I didn't log in, I had to restart Revit to log in again. But now I can log out here from Naviate. I'll get the message that I'm logged out successfully, and I will not have access to Naviate anymore. To log in again, I can go to Naviate Login and use my credentials to log in again. This will give me access to my license again and my features. We also added the possibility to release and refresh a license, and that is mainly if you have been away from your computer for a long time and you've lost access to your license. Instead of having to close Revit, restart again to get your license, you can use release and refresh to refresh the license again and continue working with your Naviate.